TV.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the first November meeting of the Lee County Board of Commissioners. Welcome everybody. At this time, we'll stand for a moment of silence and then the pledge. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any additions to the agenda tonight? Okay. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, the approval of consent agenda.
Madam Chair, if I may, if we can move item 2B and 2C under new business, just so I can address the board on those matters.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so there'll be item B and C under new business. Okay? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Are there any public comments? None? Okay, thank you. Okay, old business, is the adoption of the resolution regarding the national opioid litigation. Ms. Parrish?
Yes, as you can see in your agenda, if you recall, back in April of this year, Lee County did file suit against the various distributors and manufacturers in joining in the national opioid litigation. As you know, this is all being handled in the multi-district litigation in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Ohio, under the authority of federal Judge Polster. You may have been hearing there's been some settlements that have been occurring in the federal courts in Ohio, and the counties and cities who are in the multi-district litigation have until November 22nd of 2019 to opt out of a negotiation class if it so chooses. If plaintiffs stay in the class, then the settlement will be binding on the entity if approved by a supermajority of 75% of the voting class members, and if it's approved, ultimately approved by the court. And then under advice from our national council, Lee County has chosen to stay in the negotiation class as opposed to opting out of it. And so as a result of that, we're just asking the board to adopt a resolution essentially memorializing that we're going to stay in the settlement negotiation class, and not opt out.
Okay. Any questions or comments from Ms. Parrish?
Yeah, I have a question. I've been keeping up with it, and I know that in October, Purdue Pharma had filed for bankruptcy. So what does that look like, or how does that affect our settlement, or possible settlement?
Yeah, so I think now what we're doing is if we stay in, and our local council is here too if you want to jump in, but if
Perfect
we stay
time.
in the if we stay in the negotiation class, we're hoping that we would negotiate a settlement with all of the defendants that are in the classes.
Any other questions or?
Yeah, sorry, I'm like, yeah,
No,
I'm
that's
framing
what I
my
was trying to-
thoughts. Because you had spoke that some are kind of in the process of tentative settlement. And I know that a lot of the states and local governments that have been involved are really unhappy with the potential settlement, that it just is not at all the compensation that they feel is justified. And in my limited research, which is limited, I was reading a kind of an excerpt of some dialogue from the bankruptcy court, and it seems that the judge that was involved in that, his name was Robert Drain, which it seems like that's different than what our
Yeah, the bankruptcy is in a different court. It's bankruptcy court, as you stated. I don't know that we know necessarily yet what any bankruptcy will do with the settlements here, but we're hoping that as a negotiation class, the more that remain in it, the more likely we can push forward for a global settlement. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's right.
Okay.
Do you want to weigh in any?
Well, thank you. I apologize I was late.
That's fine.
I thought it was further down on the agenda.
We're moving through quickly tonight for some reason.
Yeah, I think Ms. Parrish has got the position
Right.
fairly stated. We want to remain in the class of the negotiating class, and we feel like as a larger group, we got better negotiation position, and if we were to opt out, we're really on our own, and we're going forward, and the resources aren't as great as if we stay together, and it seems like the cases that are being prosecuted now are forcing the defendants to come to the table and settle, and I think the prospects of us being able to be in the same position are greater if we're in the group. I don't really think it's really a choice we really have. We do have a legal choice, but I think the best position would to stay in the class and move forward.
What do you say is the best possible outcome at this point in time?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I don't have a number to give you.
but I think that the best outcome would be for us to stay in the class and get this settled, and it's a lot of people reaching into the pie, seeking compensation and funding for whatever programs and damages they're entitled to. So it's going to be spread over a lot of folks, but to do otherwise, in other words, to not remain in the group, you're on your own trying to seek compensation. And if we were to be successful pursuing it on our own outside of the group, and we got a great result, it could throw the defendants into a bankruptcy situation different from what they're trying to avoid now. So I don't have a number to give you as far as the best possible outcome. We'll just have to see on that. So,
Then I guess a follow-up question would be, what is the worst possible outcome?
yeah, well, the worst possible outcome would be for our cases to go to trial and we'd lose. And that is a risk. But short of that would be remaining, not being part of the group, and then we get that what's left over after the settlement takes place. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It does.
It's really kind of hard to give you a percentage of this versus a percentage of that, but the national firms are strongly recommending that we move forward in the group, and we've got more negotiation clout from that perspective, and we reap the benefit of the ones that are on the front lines right now getting ready for trial, and so that's kind of where we are with it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right.
Madam Chair, I got a question, and I'm not sure who can answer this the best. The Attorney General some weeks ago on the radio was touting a settlement with the opioid lawsuit. I'm just curious, can you give us a background on that?
Hey, can
Yeah, I can
you
go
right
over
there?
to the podium.
Thank you.
That'd be fine. Yeah, our Attorney General Stein, is that?
Yes.
Attorney General Stein has filed suit on behalf of the state, and I'm not sure where that is. So there's really, some of that became adversarial because we were seeking monetary compensation and they were seeking more remedial stuff, and so that's part of why the settlement wasn't going to take place. A couple of weeks ago, if you recall, when we met, we were on the eve of trial, and it looked like the cases were going to go forward because the attorney generals were in a different posture than the private attorneys and representing the different municipalities and cities. And so I'm not sure where that is, to be honest with you, as far as where the attorney general's the state is on that.
So there's a possibility of a conflict with local governments and the state government?
There, in terms of, yeah, there was. I think they've tried to work that out, and they were able to get a tentative settlement with the cases that were on for trial a couple of weeks ago, but I'm not sure where that is now, to be honest with you, as far as the Attorney General's position is. But they haven't, I don't think the Attorney General or the Attorneys General have resolved their cases yet.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. So we have the resolution before us to remain in the class. Moving forward, is there a motion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, new business. Farm City Week proclamation. Dr. Stone? And guest? Let you introduce her. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and County Commissioners. Well, it's nearing the time of year once again where we celebrate Farm City Week, recognizing the interconnectedness and dependence of the rural and urban communities upon one another. And we do hope that you can join us for the Farm City Banquet on November the 25th, as well as our Ladies Luncheon on December 4th. There's also numerous other activities listed in your Farm City Week flyers that can be found in your agenda packets. Now I'd like to welcome one of our own Lee County 4-H members, Paulina Romero, to describe her personal experiences and perspectives related to agriculture.
Good evening.
Evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Paulina Romero, and I am a junior at Lee County High School. I am not a native of Sanford, but as far as I can remember, Sanford has always been my home. So, when I was offered the opportunity to come and speak here tonight, I was excited but nervous. Agriculture has always been something very important to me, and my view on it has been shaped in many ways. My parents made me aware of the importance of agriculture and the way it impacted our lives in ways in which we didn't even realize. This all started because when they realized the importance of it, it was with first-hand experience. At an early age, both of my parents began to work in the strawberry fields of California. This made them think about the jobs that the agricultural industry produced for many and the work that was required to take food from farms to tables. Thanks to agriculture, my parents were able to provide for me and my brother at an early age, and this is where my interaction with agriculture began. After we moved to North Carolina, agriculture wasn't something that affected us through my parents' employment anymore, but it was something that was still present in our lives. Agriculture is difficult to ignore every time you have a delicious meal, or even as you travel across our country and state and see vast fields of crops and livestock. Although my parents no longer worked in agriculture, they always made sure to teach us what they knew about it so that we would never forget its importance, just like people keep traditions alive so that they don't get lost over time. Later on, I had a friend who happened to live on a farm, and from her family, I learned about agriculture through a different perspective. From her, I learned about the hard work that goes on behind the scenes of farming 7 days a week and 365 days a year, and the sacrifices that farm families have to make in order to sustain. Besides the lessons that others have taught me, I have learned much about agriculture from other sources, and I have realized that it impacts me more than I ever realized. I have a greater appreciation for agriculture because of the opportunities that it gave people hundreds of years ago when they first settled here, and more recently the chance it gave both of my parents. I am thankful for the economic opportunities that agriculture gave them then and continue to give people today. I see the snow-like fields of cotton in the fall and consider how this crop is used to make my denim jeans and t-shirts. While many people love to assume that agriculture is something that only affects farmers and their families, it is not. It continues to affect all of us each and every day, and it is something that I want to educate others about whenever I have the opportunity. Now, I would like to mention that this coming November 25th, the Farm City Banquet will be held at the McSwain Extension Education Agriculture Center with a focus on transitions in agriculture both locally and across the state. This event allows us to get together and spend quality time with the friends and neighbors in our community, as well as say thank you to our local farmers for the food and fiber they provide. NT Cooperative Extension in Lee County will also be hosting an annual favorite on December 4th, the Ladies Luncheon. This much anticipated tradition continues this year with the theme of nourishing our communities, recognizing the importance of food security for all residents of our county and what we can do together to make this a reality. Thank you.
Thanks, Paulina. We appreciate that.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
question, I don't expect Mr. Stone to respond, but he's welcome to. The State Ag is considering redoing the farmer's market.
Yes. Yes.
Do you or any of you have a position on that one? If you're familiar with it, I mean.
With putting the condos and everything up around it. Yeah. Do you want to give a timetable or anything? I don't.
Yeah,
I'll find out more tomorrow.
Commissioner Reeves, I'm familiar with that initiative. I don't have a lot of details on it yet, but I'd be glad to check on and get some more information if the board would like to learn more about that.
I'd like to know how it's going to impact the farmers. I love farmer markets. I enjoy them. And, there was a small announcement this afternoon that some of the farmers are in opposition, total opposition to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't have the background to know what was involved.
There's a couple of meetings in Raleigh this week I'll be at, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, and I can also get some information on my
Okay.
end and share it with Chairwoman Dalrymple to get out to everybody.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, of course.
Thanks, Dr.
Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, we have the Farm City Proclamation. Whereas the American farmers literally help feed and clothe the world by producing a bounty of agricultural products, and whereas rich agricultural resources contribute to the health and well-being of our country and to the strength of our economy, and whereas the growth and development of Lee County and the well-being of all its citizens are dependent upon cooperation and exchange between our rural and urban communities, and whereas the hard work and successful cooperation between rural and urban communities will continue to play a vital role in our future, and whereas the complexities of individuals' environments and the divergence of their activities may lead to a widening gap of misunderstanding, and whereas misunderstanding must be eliminated if our American way of life is to endure, and whereas Farm City Week provides an unparalleled experience for farm and city people to become better acquainted. Now therefore, we do hereby proclaim the period of November 22nd through 28, 2019 to be Farm City Week, and call upon citizens in rural and urban areas to acknowledge and celebrate the achievements of all those who working together produce and supply our community and nation with an abundance of agricultural products. We do further call upon all citizens of this county, city, and town to participate in the joint visits, seminars, and civic and social events associated with the successful Farm City Week in Lee County. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Thanks again, Dr. Stone. Thank you, Holly. Appreciate that. Okay, I guess we'll kind of do item B and C together since they're similar. Ms. Parrish?
Yes, so, these are for, the first item, B, is for 3 elevators for electronic door safety upgrades, and Mr. Spivey can, if y'all have individual questions about the, actual items, he's here to answer that. And then the second one is for 6 starters, replacement starters for the equipment, for the elevators. But in terms of what I was asking the board for, we need to get this work done, but we've been going back and forth on some of their terms and conditions that are on the agenda. They have agreed as of today to remove some of the things that I have asked them to remove, such as us identifying them, us naming them as additional insured, and some other items, but we're still waiting to hear back on a couple of other items. So I was going to see if the board would approve the work orders contingent on the final draft being approved by the legal department, and then authorizing the chair to sign it once we get all that. It won't change the amount of money, and as Mr. Spivey said, we don't really have a choice. They are the manufacturers of the elevator, but we're just trying to get back and forth.
Do you want to say anything else, Russell? And this is page 8 through 20 in your packet with the contract and terms for both projects.
Yeah, to help you better understand too, the reasoning for the door guard safety is, and I've already done it in this building here, instead of having, you have the rubber guard on, you have 2 electronic eyes that look at it. And like a child or senior or older person, when they come to it, as soon as you break the eye, the elevator stops the door. But for what we have now in both courthouses is when the door closes, it can hit you. So it's just I've already done it in this building, it's just a safety precaution. Now on the motor starters, to better help you explain that, like if we get a surge of power or anything, we don't have any protection to burn the motors out on elevators. And, we're pretty good in this building here, but that's a pretty costly expense. So this will, protect those too. And we're really, these elevators were originally installed as Dover elevators, but they were bought out by ThyssenKrupp. And we have a contract with them on we have like a 24-hour day contract for if we have any issues. Our main concern is like at the courthouse where we have the jail. When that elevator goes down, especially for the jail operation, is really critical because the inmates are having to be taken up through the stairways and stuff. So that's one of my main operations. And fortunately, in this building, we've got 3 elevators, so generally most time if I lose one of the front elevators, I still got the other 2 to keep everything in operation. But I'd appreciate if you consider this so we can move forward on it. We have really worked hard on trying to get these contracts resolved, but there's a lot to it. So this is a corporate company, and they have a lot of rules and regulations too. So once we respond and talk to the people that are in the Raleigh office, they have to then forward it to the corporate office. So it takes a little time. So Winnie's done an excellent job, and Jennifer too, as far as trying to move forward with this. So appreciate it if we could do this.
Okay, so we'll need 2 separate motions. Is that correct?
Or I
Or-
guess you can do one motion for both terms and agreements.
Okay. Okay. Is there a motion?
So move.
Okay, you have that?
Yes, that we can, that once they're approved by legal department, then the chair can sign it.
Okay. Any more questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for allowing us to
Gentlemen,
move forward.
thank you. Okay, manager's report.
Yes, ma'am, just going backwards, the settlement offer was $48 billion that fell apart, that the Attorney General was involved in, and that we would have been involved in as well. And if you, I'm not going to announce what our cut would have been on that, but if you remember what we generate per $1 billion settlement, $48 billion would have been a significant amount coming into the county.
Yes, it would be.
So, anyway, we'll leave it at that for now. I just have 2 things. The Workforce Development Board invited the commissioners to their annual retreat on Thursday. I don't know if y'all got that email, but I got a phone call about it today that we had responded, and I didn't know if I'd gotten an email. But anyway, I have an agenda. If anybody wants to go to the Workforce Development Board retreat, it's on Thursday at Campbell University. Starts at 9 o'clock in the morning and runs most of the day. And then also on Thursday night, the Community Crime Issues Forum meets again. This is the meeting that Pam Glover has with the JCPC has put together. Thursday night's meeting starts at 6:30 and is at the Civic Center. So I will be attending that one.
Did you say Thursday at 6:30? Okay.
And also Thursday, if any of the commissioners want to go to the Veterans Luncheon at 11:30 at the Civic Center, please let Jennifer or myself know, and we'll let the staff at the Enrichment Center know that you're coming. So I am on that list, and we'll be there. And then we are closed for business next Monday.
Okay. Okay.
And then tomorrow is the municipal election. We have a lot of election workers out there working, so I hope some people go visit them tomorrow.
That's a good way to put it.
And vote.
Check in. Check in.
Now, which precincts are open? They're not all open.
They're
No Broadway.
No.
Broadway's open.
Broadway's open because they're going to
Right,
elect.
right.
Yeah,
Broadway.
and whatever are inside the city limits, I'm not sure. I know a couple of schools are involved.
Mhm.
So, because the schools are staying open, because there's only a couple of schools that are involved.
Okay. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, commissioners' comments. Commissioner Reeves?
I'd just like to ask the board, for those who have not been over to the Wicker School site, to take a little time and go over. I'd like for us to send an official thank you to the architect. He's done a tremendous job.
Yes, he has.
It's almost unreal to transition from the old building into the new building. You don't even feel the difference. Like it's all been there all along.
Mhm.
Beautiful job.
And the fact that it was on schedule was amazing. That's a lot of work.
I agree.
A lot of work.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Commissioner LaFawnduh?
Yes. Couple things. One, going back to the opioid litigation, I just wanted to quote Judge Robert D. Drain, who was the judge for the hearing of the bankruptcy that was going on. He said that he did not think that the state lawsuits would produce the sought-after factual records of the opioid crisis or an enforceable settlement that would put money into the hands of those most in need. When the states took on the tobacco companies and negotiated payments for health care, he pointed out that most of the legislators ended up diverting the money to plug holes in their budgets. So I just kind of wanted to go back to what I always divert to when this subject gets brought up, which is a tangible resource that's being put to place, and that is the opioid response initiative through First Health. And right now we're in the phase of just implementing a media coverage of the grants that we've received in Lee County. The Sanford Herald actually did a little piece on it earlier in October about the $1 million grant that we received, and since then we've actually received more. It's an additional $50,000, and that's being implemented right now in Lee County specifically for peer-to-peer support, and that's a resource for individuals who have already recovered and are ongoing recovery, because it's a process, and are meeting with those who are seeking treatment. And it's a much deeper process than just a 30-day detox. So I just wanted to go back to that tangible implementation of funds that we have that are being used to address this issue, because there's no doubt that it's an issue, and my weariness of this litigation is not in denial of the absolute and loud problem we have with the opioid crisis. It's more of just a concern of the possibility if the litigation doesn't go the way we want it to. But moving forward from that, I also wanted to share that I have been nominated through the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners and Senator Bergen's office with the Infant Mortality Task Force. And we had a meeting today, and it was the first meeting since the last session, and the focus was actually all about the opioid crisis, and specifically mothers or expectant mothers who are dealing with addiction, and just sort of the data that goes into it, because you have to deal with the people differently. A woman who's in her mid-20s and is expecting a child, you have to, the resources needed for that are much different than a 35-year-old man who's facing addiction. And so just really interesting, the data that's gone into that. And another piece of good news is, since the task force was established in 1999, infant mortality rates have actually decreased in North Carolina 49%. So the task force is absolutely making a difference, and moving forward with different resources and legislative steps. We hope to see that continue, because in the ranking of states, North Carolina is consistently, unfortunately, lower when it comes to infant mortality rates. So we want to see that change. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Commissioner Dodd.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Shaw?
Yeah. Adding on to what Commissioner Reeves said earlier, it was a good ceremony yesterday over at W.B. Wicker, and just looking out in the crowd, it appeared to be 300 or 400 people there by my best estimate, and I seen a lot of the alumni out there, and I could see a sense of pride, and they're proud of the building, and it was just a good time. And if you hadn't been out there, it'd be nice to go look at it. It's a quality building.
I'm good.
Commissioner Smith?
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it. I was in South Carolina for the weekend, and I can assure you, no tourist agency filmed me.
Are you sure?
Boston.
Okay, well, mine is sort of commissioner comments, but I would appreciate if we could have a little bit of discussion since we've got a light meeting. At our last meeting, Dr. Crumpton, had on our agenda about the Lee Early College and the library, the joint library between the college and the county. And then we were also talking a little bit about the sports complex. We discussed it a little bit, but, we really didn't get into it too much, but we were missing some of our board, and we're glad to have you back. We missed you. So I guess I just kind of wanted to have a little bit more discussion on that, if you're willing, because this is our first meeting in November, and if we're gonna move on any of those projects, we're gonna have to go to the LGC, by February, and before that, we have to have a lot of things done. So I'm just asking if you're interested in continuing that discussion so we can give staff some direction.
I certainly am. I know I wasn't a part of the last discussion, but from our meeting in January, I feel it's very important, especially for Lee Early College. They need a brick and mortar area, and our library needs improvement. And I think, it's a benefit to the community college. I think having it in that area is a real big plus too. I'm not so keen on the sports complex right now, so I don't know if we can, what we need to do with that. But if there's an alternative to maybe not going the full extent, but meeting some of the needs in a different way. But I do feel that moving forward with the library and Lee Early College especially needs to be done.
Could somebody go back over how we're gonna?
Funding, you mean?
Yes. Real quick.
Real quick?
On the library part. I understand about the sports complex,
Right.
how we were going with that, but
I guess.
The library, I spoke with the manager, it really got me puzzled because I don't understand we were talking $30 million is what I heard. And Kerry just did a 26,000 square foot library for, they said, $10.7 million. A regional library.
Right.
All right.
John, go over.
Well, this
Break
proposal
it
is really
down.
3 buildings
Right.
in one. So you have the library that's considered the public library piece, then you have the library that's considered the community college piece, and then you have the classroom that would be attached for the Lee Early College. And the initial planning takes that square footage to about 100,000 square feet.
All right.
So using the, we're approaching $300 a square foot construction cost right now. The estimate is around 30 million for all of
For
that.
all 3 pieces.
And of course, that's just initial planning, until we actually hire, which is another interesting thing we have to work through on this one. Since it is on the community college property, the community college will be taking the lead in the project. Of course, we take the lead in the funding, but they take the lead in the construction, and we still have to work through the plan of, work for, what those buildings look like, how much of a common area there will be between the 3 buildings, and whether we need to, try to cut back square footage even further, because it was more than 100,000 square foot till the last meeting I was at, and told them we couldn't go over that.
Yeah.
Now, the 3, is that a requirement, or that's just a selection that we made?
That is just the proposal at this time,
All right.
and if you can always look at it differently, and let the school do their thing with their own library and classroom, and then we go do our own thing with the library somewhere. You can do that as well. But I think the emphasis was trying to do a joint project where we would have some shared space.
I agree.
And
I
kind of
agree,
like
and
the
I still
Chatham County
support
Guild.
that.
Same
But I
with
just
me.
want to know a little bit more about how we're arriving at what we plan to do. For example, I heard you mention the Lee Early College addition is a different pot of money. Is that correct, or is that part?
That would be all
No,
the same.
all together.
Right. I heard 30 million, then I heard 14 million at one of our meetings. I heard that 14 million was gonna be needed for the classroom expansion at Lee Early College. And then I saw a figure of 30 million for the library. If that's not right, it's fine.
It's
No, but
30 million total
Total,
between all
okay.
three buildings.
for all three, college, library, county library, and Lee Early College. Yeah, I think maybe, I do remember that. I think maybe
I
we
know I
broke,
do.
yeah, we broke some down, broke it out a little bit. If we just did the Lee Early College building
Right.
there. And, you know, we've seen a couple of renderings, some on the library board too. And, you know, we've seen pictures of where you had a college wing and a county wing, you know, and then the common space in between. And then, well, we had that in our agenda packet last time, I think.
Mhm.
And then the Lee Early College building sort of, you know, making the third side of the triangle, basically. And like Dr. Crumpton, I've talked to Beth List, our library director, and, you know, as we get closer, we see how much it's gonna cost. Interest rates are really low now, you know.
My only thing was, I didn't want redundancies in both libraries. Like, you know, if you had X books over here, you should need them on the other side too. You know, so that's
Right.
the whole point of that shared space. But I know there were some areas for college to do their studying and some other stuff. But overall, the library part should be able to access throughout the community. You know, I hope the public can go to all the areas
Sure.
of the library. Yeah, I haven't seen how you're laying it out, but
I think that's, a lot of that is still to be determined. Right now, you're dealing mainly with square footage needs. And then when you hire the architect, it comes down to, you know, getting into the specifics and how everything kind of flows together and works together. I didn't bring any of that work plan stuff with me tonight. Otherwise, I'd start reading through what the needs were for the community college and the library. But they do have different needs. They do have, you know, one is through the community college system, the other one's through us, and you know, they have different, or through the state really, with all the money we get from the state for the library. So they keep their circulations, record keeping differently. So there is some overlap in the books, but you know, they also share books back and forth. So, you know, which they can do through a loan process.
Basically, that's what Beth List is trying to do is, I know she's visited 3 joint libraries now, I think, maybe. I think she's gone to the 3rd one, but, you know, just trying to get information of how that works. Because, I mean, obviously, we'd move our library over and they'd move their library over into the new building, but because, like Dr. Crumpton said, we're on the Dewey Decimal System, the old way of, you know, filing books still at our library. But the college, I can't remember their system, but they use something different. So they have to be separate, but there's software and there's different things that they can get so that they know what each other has. And, you know, if somebody's looking for, but I mean, you know, we can go to the CCCC library now, you know, and check out a book. So, she's talking to other libraries to make it
I
work.
just want to say there's no redundancies, right? That's all.
Right.
I do think that at some point, the Board of Education, the Community College Board of Trustees, and this board are going to have to get together.
Yep.
And then, you know, at least have one meeting together, and then at that point, you'll probably have to break off into a committee. Having too many people sit around the table. And plus, you have the Library Board of Trustees as well. So right there, you've got about 30 to 16, to 7, that's 20. No, it's over like 35, 36 people that would have an interest. That doesn't even include the staff that would have, interest in what's going on. But at some point, we do have to have, I would think, some type of joint meeting to talk about it and have more specifics and how we're going to move through the process of, whether we're going to, how we're going to select architect, how we're going to, go through that whole process, because I think everybody's going to want to have a say in what's going on. So it will be a bureaucratic process.
Yes.
It won't be fast.
So I guess, I'm looking at Ms. Parrish over here, but I guess we don't really need a vote tonight, but just maybe a consensus or of the board that, are we willing to take the big step forward and instruct staff to go ahead and put the numbers together for us to get that meeting of the joint boards together, maybe the 1st of December, maybe?
Well, we can always just invite them somewhere
Yeah.
and go meet,
Yeah.
and who can show up. Trying to get 36 people to say they can all come to the same
I
meeting
know.
would be tough. So
We'll just set a date.
at some point, you have to set a date and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. I wouldn't like the first part of December, maybe the second or third week of December.
Okay.
Give us a little bit of time to get calendars together and some financial plans on how we can afford $30 million.
So, again, I'm kind of.
I think the second part of your question is sports complex.
Sorry?
The second part of your discussion was sports complex, right?
Right. So, I mean, are y'all good with moving forward with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, yeah, okay, sports complex.
I think the second part of that, we should just look at what our local needs are and what the cost of that would be, just to fulfill our local needs, and go from there. I think what we had planned, was a little much in my thoughts. And you got baseball fields in Northview. I don't want to make sure that we're not creating any problems for them, what they have going on out there and over in Broadway as well. Reach out to Sassel and ask what are their local needs, what do they require, and see what that project looks like.
Go ahead.
I mean, we could just put the rectangle, it doesn't have to be the whole ball of wax. We could put the rectangles on the ballot. I mean, that's something that could be entertained.
You can. We do need to meet with Sassel. I've extended a invitation to meet with me to talk about what their needs are. I have not heard back yet. So one of the reasons I didn't put that back on tonight is I haven't heard back from them. Plus, I don't have the information from the other two sports complexes that were picked out that, we would get some information on them and find out how successful they are. But, so I wasn't quite ready to talk about that. But, like I said at the last meeting, like I said at the, I went and met with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting last Monday, and we talked. The Recreation Board, they didn't take a vote, but you can tell there's unanimous support on the rectangle fields. There is, whether we need additional baseball fields with what we have out at Tramway. We have 4 baseball fields there that we use for tournaments, and tournament plays down this summer, so we don't have as many tournaments scheduled as we normally do. So you have to take a look at that and find out, what that demand is. And but I know after talking with the president of the Lions Club, they don't, it's kind of a issue for them right now. They don't, mind it, but when it comes fair time, they have problems.
Yeah.
And so, obviously there's a need for rectangle fields. How many? It still has to be determined, but John has had requests from the football, the 2 football programs that run Pop Warner leagues. He's had the gentleman who's trying to start the lacrosse league, and then you got Sassel. So you have you have, demand building for the rectangle fields.
You could almost transition the baseball fields to more rectangular fields.
If you need that many, I don't know if you need that many.
I mean, wasn't the original like 6 rectangles or something like that?
8,
Eight.
8, and then we, or actually 10, and then we cut it back to 8, and then we had the, we're going to convert fields 9 and 10 into the stadium fields.
Yep.
So you'd end up with 9 fields.
Artificial turf.
We were still looking at it. There was talk of 4 natural and 4 artificial of the 8 fields, and then what to do with the stadium. We didn't figure that out yet.
Because you can rotate throughout the weekend if you had all artificial, maybe 4 artificial. That's what we need to find out. What SASL requirements.
Okay. So,
But we still have some work to do on that one.
Okay. But keep moving forward, and, I mean, that's to get
Yeah,
information on that.
You can always look at needs, right?
So will the 8 rectangular field be a part of the sports complex, or is that something separate and different?
That was part of the sports complex.
It is
along
part of
with
the sports
baseball.
complex.
Yeah.
The plan that was put before the board actually can be built in sections.
Right.
So, you can pick and choose what you want to build and what you don't want to build, and what you want to put on the ballot and what you don't want to put on the ballot.
You could do the 8 fields and restrooms and concession and the pavilion and maybe a playground, and not do all the
The
baseball
walking trails
diamonds
and
and the
the
walking
road
trails.
runs
and
all the way
The
through.
question,
Right,
my
yeah.
question always was that we had that 8 because people thought we were going to get tournaments. You needed that many. My main goal is what are the local needs.
Right.
I don't know if it's going to be probably much less, and just look at that. Because we have some land that may be donated to us for that. Would it all fit on the donated portion? And that brings down costs as well.
Would the person donating the land still donate the land if we just did rectangles?
It's a conversation.
That's another
we have to have.
conversation I'm trying to have right now, is on the land. I do know that one section that is owned, that if we don't buy it, there'll probably be a good chance somebody else will buy it, and it won't be used for recreation purposes. It'll probably be used for industrial or apartments or something. So we end up being landlocked between the bypass and this piece of property if the other person still came through with a donation. So, there's a lot to work. The good thing about the library is if we in the classroom building, we know what's going to the community college. We know we already got the land.
Mhm.
So that's one of those variables we don't have to worry about. But it's definitely a variable for the sports complex of where it goes, and because we don't have any contracts on the land, we don't have a letter of commitment, we don't have really anything. So there's a lot of work to be done on that, and so are we going to push forward, or right now I'm hearing there's still a lot of questions and we're not pushing forward, not like we're doing with the library. So we'll keep talking about it and see where it goes.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I think our first thing is finding needs, and then know what our needs are, and then what our true needs are, not what our wants are, what our true needs are.
Mine is finding out whether we have the resources, how we're going to pay for it first and
Well,
foremost.
but that helps us at least know what our number is going to be.
I understand, I'm not opposing it, I'm just saying, I want to, we were sitting and saying, Board of Education has their priorities on the library, the community college will have some, and we'll have some. Do you know if they have committees already in place that are talking about these things, and if so, can't they give us a summary of what they think they might be looking for?
The community college does.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody should,
Mhm.
and just submit it. When you start bringing a bunch of people together, and especially the ones who are not responsible for paying, you get a lot of
True.
great ideas
You do.
and a lot of pressure behind those great ideas.
Well, that's
I'd be
actually
very
why I
careful.
wanted y'all in the room with me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, all right.
I'd rather have a summary of where they are, what they anticipate
any more comments or questions or points for discussion on libraries or classrooms or sports?
30 million
complexes?
already give me a headache. So, no, I'm finished.
All right, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, all right, thank you very much.